Do you find any similarities between the women that you encountered that gave you a difficult time in this career path as some of the women or girls you encountered in high school?
That's a good question.
Welcome to another episode of Primary Care. I'm your host, Dr. Hendricks. This episode of Primary Care is sponsored by Rugiette Health, more than just an ED treatment. I'm Dr. Tyler Hendricks. It's so nice to meet you, and thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here. My name's Julie Korioth. I am first and foremost a mother. I have two kids. I have a 13-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter, and they are my world to a certain extent. For the longest time, I thought that was my purpose in life, like having them. And I forgot for a while there that there were things in my life that I was passionate about and I needed to pursue. And that actually came about after I got a divorce with their dad 7 years ago. We had a very amicable divorce, but it really brought up a lot of my mental health issues that had never been addressed that started happening when I was younger. Sure. And so now what I do is I really fight for mental health. I have a company around mental health, Speak as One.
Yes.
And our tagline is Healthier Together, because really we are one if we allow ourselves to just be a little more accepting of others and to hear each other. You start to understand that we are more alike than we are different.
Starting your own business and being a woman must be very difficult. I mean, I'm starting my own business as a white male and struggling, so I can imagine that everyone else is also struggling too. And so how did that come about, and how did you find that motivation to even put that first foot forward?
Started isolating, stayed away from my groups,
yeah,
and decided to stop drinking. So that was the beginning of my healing journey. And long story, I needed to go to a trauma intensive, which was a 30-day trauma intensive program. That was about a year and a half after I stopped drinking. So this all kind of leads into how I started this business. And when I got back from my trauma intensive was March 15th, 2020. Lockdown was March 16th, 2020. Wow. And right before I had left, I'd started 4 videos with some friends just asking if they would share their stories around mental health and the resources they used to get help. And I didn't know really where I was going with that, except that when I was researching things, it was either very clinical or very motivational, and I just wanted to hear people like me. Yeah. And I wanted to hear conversations about it. Anything that I found was maybe people talking directly to the camera about them. I just needed more dialogue.
Sure.
So I thought, we'll do it.
Yeah.
And when I got back from treatment, and then we're in lockdown, and hearing all these stories around mental health, I realized this is something I have to continue. And I really couldn't go out and get a job at this point because I have my kids 85% of the time. They're literally with me 24/7.
Lockdown.
It's me and they're, so I can't go get a job because then what do I do? Right. And so when things started opening up a little bit, and I was still homeschooling and things like that, I decided to keep going with the stories when they were with their dad. And so I thought, okay, here we go. I've got something here. This could be a nonprofit, and I'll start a nonprofit around mental health. And because I had served on the board of one for a little over 5 years, I knew the nonprofit world. I met a mentor of mine, and I was telling him how I wanted this to be globally recognized one day. And I know that storytelling and hearing about mental health out of people's mouths is so important.
Yeah.
And he was so kind and said to me in such a loving way, he was like, Julie, if you want this to be globally recognized, that's not going to happen being a nonprofit here in Austin, Texas. Right. As I'm sure you know, the market is oversaturated. Sure. We have like the highest per capita nonprofits out of any city. And
wow.
Yeah.
A lot of good work hopefully being done.
Exactly. Amazing work being done.
Right.
But he said, we also need people like you being a for-profit company.
Sure.
You can do just as much, if not more,
Right.
if you are a for-profit company doing
sure.
good.
Yeah.
And so made the switch just a little bit over a year ago. As I was going out to raise money, people were asking me, so you want us to invest on stories?
Right.
Like, yeah.
Why not? They seem to do really well. If you turn on the TV, that's all that you're watching.
Exactly.
What everyone has to give, right? So how exactly does it work?
Yeah. So, that wasn't working, and I had to really dive in and think about what did I need during that time when I was isolating and things felt very dark, and what do people need for preventative measures?
Sure.
And really thinking about mental health like we do our physical health. We go, we work out, there's gyms everywhere. We can go work out and take care of our physical health on any level.
Exactly.
We need to make our mental health the same priority. And it doesn't even have to take up that much time.
Sure.
If we can put little steps into place. So that's when the subscription box model came into play. And so we launched in November.
So without giving too much away, because
Sure.
obviously the box is probably, the excitement within it is not knowing exactly what you're going to get, but what would someone expect?
We want to address mental health as soon as we wake up in the morning.
Sure.
And what we know is that if you step out into sunlight right away, not only supports your mental health, it supports your sleep and so many other things.
Yes.
Not everybody feels like they can get out of bed right away.
Sure.
And that's okay. And so there's what's called a happy light. And you can use it not only in the morning, but you can use it throughout the day. It was created for seasonal depression and for,
I am a huge seasonal affective disorder person.
Yes.
Huge.
Yes. And that's why people use this.
Yeah.
And another thing that I feel is really important is aromatherapy.
Big fan.
Yeah. And one of the things that you can do too is after you wake up, everyone takes showers, put an aromatherapy bomb in your shower. You can do 5 breathing exercises. Mm-hmm. Everything is meant to be simple.
Right.
And things that you can do just to add a little bit of value to your day.
Sure.
There is one of my favorite things that Brittany, who works with me, created. It's called the Trigger Tracker. People love this, and we're going to start on our socials putting it out on Sunday, like a journal prompt every Sunday.
Sure.
But this one specifically, it's like what triggered me today? How did I handle the situation? What can I do better next, or how can I address it differently next time?
Yeah.
I don't want to say better. How can we address it differently next time? And how do I show gratitude around the situation? We all get triggered. And I think that's what we need to remember if we can.
I actually was just thinking this the other day. I used to have a diary, which is so feminine for a young guy, but that's me. So
it's wonderful.
It's wonderful. Mm-hmm. I even missed the word. They changed it to journal now. Most people say journal, but diary's great. And I feel like having one, if you don't have access to a therapist, especially if you have limited financial resources, this is a great way to get started addressing your mental health and just your overall well-being, what you want to do with your life, who you are. I mean, you write down every day what you're thinking and look back at it. Spend as much time as you are writing, looking back at who you are, because those thoughts are right there and they will reflect the person that sometimes we don't even know is inside of us because we're so busy in our day-to-day.
Yeah. It's such a great way to do a brain dump too.
Yes.
There's this book called The Artist's Way, and they talk about that. Just whatever, it doesn't even have to make sense. Write down everything that's on your mind.
Yeah.
And I started doing that in the mornings, and then I also find that I'm more clear and able to meditate better.
For sure.
Because I'm not sitting there focusing on all the thoughts that are in my head because I wrote them down.
Right. It's done. You finished that.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm really poor at meditating right now. It's definitely going to be a thing that I work on for many years. I fall asleep a lot and I can't stop thinking the other times, or I will focus on just one thing, which sometimes I try to focus on my breathing, which is what the technique most people use. But even if something is pulling my attention that day and say I'm really concerned about something with my car, I will literally think about the tire of my car, just because I know it's enough to where I'm focused on what is bothering me, but not so much that it's that whole idea, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it seems to have helped me. I don't know if anyone has, I've never read that as being like a method or like a approach to therapy, but it allows me to get as still as I can with, still having a piece of that stress
I think that's what it's
attached.
about. I think
Yes.
it's about doing what works for you.
Yeah.
And some people, you know, want to go on YouTube and find different types of meditation.
Sure.
Some people want to sit in silence. And, you know, it's been a long journey for me with meditation. I started trying it, I think like maybe 10 years ago, off and on, never consistent. I would do Oprah and Deepak's 21-day challenges.
Yes.
But then after 21 days, I would stop. But, you know,
Yeah.
I'd always keep trying. And then this year, especially having to work through the highs and lows of being an entrepreneur, I realized I need to really make it more of a practice and be more intentional with it. And so I've done that.
So for me, I feel like I definitely don't belong in the category of the stereotypical entrepreneur, and I don't even see myself that way. I still see myself as like a 15-year-old kid who's just trying to figure his way out of things, you know, like figure life out. And so as a woman, and the women that are around me, I've always surrounded myself with really strong women. I think being in the LGBTQ plus community, that's just who I've identified with a lot. I was really close with my mom growing up. And so we even have a coworker, Devin. She is such a ambitious and motivated and strong representation of a young woman, like taking charge of her leadership role.
She is, I know that.
Yeah,
she's wonderful.
She's incredible. And so I want other women out there or other people who feel like they're a part of a minority or that they don't have a voice or that their voice is often hushed to know that it is possible. So in this situation, especially asking for money and being in a company, do you feel as though you've had to navigate a difficult time being a woman?
Oh, yeah. I want to say most of the people I've come across have been quite lovely.
Good.
And have wanted to, maybe they haven't invested, but have offered their support and wanting to help make connections. There have been times when I didn't realize that I'm meeting someone, and they know, like I've reached out to them as maybe potentially being an investor, that they had something else on their mind.
Right.
And that is not investing in me.
No.
That is dating me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's frustrating about that is that it takes time. It takes up time.
Right.
And they usually don't then imply that until like after the third or fourth meeting.
Right.
And so I don't know how to navigate that. You know, you can't. I also don't want to get jaded and meet an investor and say to him, so, hey, what's your intention with me? Do you want to, or be presumptuous,
For sure.
Because that's not everyone.
Fair. I know.
So I think it's just, it's something that I find out after, a few, and then I don't meet with that person again and, move on.
Yeah. And I think talking about it, letting you know it's happening to someone like you, there's people out there, I'm sure that it's happening to them too. And just, I guess keeping yourself strong, knowing who you are and realizing that's just a mind that you have to kind of dodge from time to time.
Yeah. And I will say, and this hasn't happened in a while, but a couple of women VCs that I was introduced to early on, all about supporting women. Wow.
Yeah.
They were the ones, a few of them, that's not everybody,
sure.
But I'm just telling you a couple of experiences, and hopefully that if anyone's hearing this, you don't have to believe in the company and you don't have to invest in the company, but there is having social graces around talking to a young, well, I'm not young, but
you are young.
I'm young in the entrepreneur.
You are young, period.
46 is young, that's right.
Yes.
But I mean, as young in my career of being an entrepreneur, I'd say, we don't have to, as women, sometimes I feel like they want to have this mentality because maybe they feel like they have to match a man to be successful in this world.
Sure.
But most of the men I have come across have been gracious and said, let me connect you with this person. This isn't a fit for us. And the first few women I came in contact with, they were just kind of rude.
Sure.
And I was more disappointed in that than I was with the men that might try to date me.
Do you find any similarities between the women that you encountered that gave you a difficult time in this career path as some of the women or girls you encountered in high school?
That's a good question.
And I know, I don't know. So as a queer guy, I always tell my female friends how attractive they are because they always tell me how attractive I am, right? And so as you get older, you start realizing maybe commenting on someone's appearance is inappropriate, right? And so people often comment on my appearance, though. Usually it's like, oh, you look so young, which I strive for and appreciate. But there's also a good and a bad to it, right? The bad is people don't take me seriously sometimes. People think I'm too young to know what I'm talking about. People think I'm too young to be a doctor. And so I have female friends who are very beautiful and very motivated and ambitious, and they are dealing with similar situations that you have been in where, you know, they think that a job opportunity is going a particular way, but it ends up being more of a romantic proposition. Or they have other female colleagues that either will comment that they're not serious because they take their appearance too seriously, or they can't be as dedicated to their career because they go to the gym a lot and they care how they look and they're superficial. But at the end of the day, it's almost like working hard on yourself can become a negative.
Yeah.
and a barrier. Hey folks, my podcast Primary Care is sponsored by Rougiette Ready, the latest pharmaceutical advancement in erectile dysfunction. This is a sublingual compounded treatment using 3 ingredients, sildenafil, tadalafil, and apomorphine, and it works up to 5 times faster than pills and chewables. We give you a promo code Primary Care for 20% off your first order and free shipping. Now, let's get back to the content. Because you're 46, but you are obviously taking great care of yourself. What a great representation to your children and to women everywhere, that, you know, what you can be and who you can be and how strong you can be and how you can lead. But it's almost like you have to be careful on that path because people unfortunately do get jealous or do think that you're cheating or there's no way you could do it all, right? And no one has it all, but everyone can work towards having it all, right?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, I used to be the most insecure girl in the room all the time. And yeah, and I would actually, for the longest time until, I don't know, maybe like my late 30s, I would try to dress down and not to be noticed because I didn't want people to notice me. And so now I think that's one of the great things about getting older is, one, working on my mental health, worked on my confidence. This has helped, being an entrepreneur has helped me with my confidence in a lot of ways. And has not.
Right.
But more so, you grow out of those times when you're feeling like you don't know what you're doing, you grow. As
a mother now, how is it balancing everything? Because I have a few plants and that's motherhood enough for me at this moment.
Oh, I don't do it very well.
That's not true. But that's every mother. I feel every good mother says that.
Yeah. What I do well is I show them a lot of love, but it's a lot. It's a lot navigating them and work, and I don't have much of a social life. But you know what? I'd rather my extra time be with them than with. I don't want this to come across the wrong way. They're gonna be out of the house soon.
Yeah.
And so any extra time I can get with them, I love it. And so that just doesn't leave a lot of extra time for a social life right now.
For sure.
When you're a single parent, because and you have the other, for me, it's like first, third, and weekend, I don't have them. And so people are like, well, you can go out then. But you're having to conserve energy here. It's like you're a single parent, so you're doing double the work.
Exactly.
And so those weekends, I'm just like...
Just trying to, I can imagine. I can certainly imagine. Yeah. And, I grew up, my mom was a single parent for like a few years, and so I did get to see that. And luckily, my stepdad was really helpful in a lot of ways. But I feel like a lot of single women get left out of the conversation still, especially single women who are having children or have had children or And your kids, you mentioned, are
13 and 10.
Yeah. So what is that age like right now?
Oh, I love it. And I mean, I did not think I would love the teenage years. But my son, he's just, both of my kids are awesome, but I'm specifically talking into teenage, which is different than 10, because 10, my daughter is just still so cuddly and loving and hasn't gotten to the teenage years yet. But I did not think I would love the teenage years, and I do. Good. You have these really, interesting conversations. They have this new, they have this perspective on the world now. Yeah. They're starting to learn, and he loves basketball, and I know nothing about sports, so he just I love that, anytime I try to talk about sports, and I almost do it in a way just to get the Mom.
I recall those moments, yes. So for those out there who want to get involved with Speak as One, or maybe want to get their own subscription box,
you can go to our website, speakasone.com, and honestly, you can reach out to me anytime, even if it's beyond Speak as One. If you're going through something, I'm always happy to talk about sobriety and things. And so my email is julie@speakasone.com. And if you want to be able to connect with others that are, maybe find somebody that's going through something similar, you can see our storytellers on our YouTube channel, Speak as One. And let's see, did I cover everything?
Do you have Instagram?
Oh, yes, Instagram, our Speak as One community, and we've got to take a picture after
this. Please. Absolutely. And, I have a small Instagram following. Maybe my followers would be interested in a subscription box. Maybe that's something. Yes. I don't know how that works, but we could chat about that more.
I love that.
Maybe a mental health month that we have a box, or, most of my audience is queer in some capacity, so maybe a rainbow type box. Who knows? But I would love to think of something that we could do. Mental health, even the most sound, mentally meditated and Zen person could use a trigger list and ways to improve on how we respond to those. So,
and if you feel like you can't, I guarantee you know someone who can use it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank
I feel like
you.
I could talk to you
for
a long time. So if you ever want to come back and just hang out, please do.
I will.
I would absolutely love that. You are truly a light. I'm sure people tell you that all the time, but you radiate positivity and are an inspiration. So please keep doing the hard work.
Thank you.
Yes. See you next time. Add us on Instagram at Primary Care Pod. Catch up on past episodes and don't miss out on new ones. Subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify at Primary Care Pod.